Hello and welcome. This is Julie from Julie's Everything Treasures, and I'm going to be doing a paint technique that I have done a few times before, but I wanted to do it again on this piece. So I am going to be transforming this very shiny piece of, I think it's kind of a foil type thing. I think it used to be a cake stand. So I'm going to transform this into a rustic old huge tile. That's what I'm hoping to achieve on this, doing different paint techniques. So if you like and enjoy my video, please give a thumbs up. Please put in comments any questions you have, and please subscribe to the channel, as I'm wanting to grow and get things going so eventually I can go live on YouTube and have lots and lots of fun with you guys. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. Let's get going, and I will show you this new technique. Well, not new to me, but hopefully maybe you haven't seen it before and you'll be inspired. So I'm going to bring you down and get you started. Alright, so I'm going to bring it close to you, and I'm going to be using a few different colours, and what I want to achieve is kind of a rust look in different areas. I don't have much of this weathered wood left, none in that one, and a little bit I think in this one, but I don't think I need much, so I'm hoping I have enough for today, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to use my favourite brush. It's probably the most used little brush I have, and I'm just going to stir this up, get some colours going, and I'm going to be doing a rust mostly around the edges, around the corners, and a little bit coming into the pattern. So I'm just going to dab in different areas. It's a DIY paint, and it's weathered wood. This is the base of what I'm going to be saying is a little bit of a rusty look. I don't want it everywhere, just having a little bit of that rusty look. As I say, I'm just going to dab it around the edges, thicker in corners and a little bit thinner around the sides over here. And we're just going to build up different colours of a kind of a rusty look. That's what we're going to achieve. And as I say, quite a bit into the corners and coming out again on this side into the corners, and just dabbing it on the first bit. So what I'm going to do with this corner, I'm going to build this one right out and bring it kind of towards the center. So really building it up, I'm dabbing it because I wanted it kind of a little bit of texture, and also I don't want solid edges. So I want this to whisper out in different directions. And on this, just this one edge. And a little bit more. I need to keep some of the weathered wood that I have for topping up later on, but just this edge, I'm just going to go towards the center. Not quite reaching the center, but getting there. And then feather it out, as I say, towards the edges. Alright, I'm going to close that up because I do want to keep every little bit of that colour, as I don't have a lot of it left. The next colour I'm going to be putting on is Summer Crush. It's another IOD DIY paint. So that's what I'm going to be using next, and I'm going to be again getting just a cheap brush. We're only dabbing on, so I don't need an expensive brush. And quite often I like to use the tops of these because it's nice and thick and I can get some texture with it. So I'm just going to go over with the tops where I've been. It's still a little wet, but that's okay because we'll get some nice colouring with this. I'm just going to go over exactly where I went before. To create some browns with the weathered wood mixing in with the Summer Crush. You want to do this while it's still wet, the paint, but not too wet that they mush together too much. You do want some of that Summer Crush to just pop. Try and do it as heavy as you can right in the corners. And just going, as I say, back over exactly where we put the weathered wood. You can always spray it down a little bit, mist it with a bottle if you find that the paint is drying too much too quickly for you to work on this. I like to work a little bit of a section at a time, but I'm just going to keep dabbing on this colour. And over here too. All the way along. As I say, doing the dabbing motion and then the thickness of the paint, you will get some texture, especially with it being the chalk paint. The DIY chalk paint is nice and thick to work with. Alright, so we're going to, as I say, we're layering colours here. So now I have a moss green, it's just a regular chalk paint. I believe this one I got from Walmart maybe. There's not a lot of this one left either, but I'm only going to be putting it in little areas. So I'm just going to work with what I have with this colour and just put in a little bit of green just in some areas. I always find with the rust look, you have a little bit of green popping through every now and then with a rust look. And this green is nice and thick, so it's going to give me lots of texture. That's nice. As I say, not a lot of it left, but that's okay because I don't need a lot. Don't need this green everywhere. I'm just going to put it in just a few random spots because it's just a tiny subtle amount of green to go on. I have to get some more colours, but I'm glad I don't have a lot of the green because I think I might tend to overplay it rather than underplay it. So with it not having a lot of it in the pot actually makes me a little bit more not putting too much on. Alright, so we have it starting to look a little like rust. I'm going to bring it up so you can see. Trying to do it so that it doesn't, you can see the rust look coming along. So next I'm going to go back in with the weathered wood to go back over the top. And just bring down just sections that are just too green or too orange, or just bringing it down a little, going over for a second coat everywhere that we've done. So we're just building another layer. As I say, just everywhere with this. Back over with the weathered wood. We don't have a lot of it, but we're just doing a thin layer everywhere. So now we're going to rotate between the orange crush and the weathered wood until we're happy with what we have. So I'm just going to go back in again with the orange crush, going over. This gives thickness, depth, texture, and also it plays with having layers of colour, which rust does have layers of colour. And just keep going now until you think that looks more like rust. Oh, got it on my hand. And with the layering of the colours, it pulls back any colour that's too prominent and brings in colours that maybe is not prominent enough. The base of doing this is the weathered wood, but the summer crush is what makes it look like the rust. So we have it kind of looking a little like rust right now, and I'm going to go back in again one more time with, oops, too wet, let me just pull that back, with the weathered wood, just one more time. And by now we actually have it really wet. And now one more time, I think, with the green, just bringing some areas that we really want. I don't have a lot of it, but just a little bit of green. Oops. That maybe you've lost by just too much. The thickness and the layers of this, it's going to take a while to dry, but that's okay. Now is the time to just kind of try and stand back, have a look, see what you've got going on, see if you think it looks like rust or not rust. So I'm thinking it needs a little of the orange, but not too much. So I'm just going to go back in a little with the orange, putting it on not too thickly. And if it does go on quite thick, I will go back over it with the brush to bring it back just a little. If you weren't low on paint like I am, you can always pour your paint out onto a plate and just use it, and so that you're not contaminating different colours. that's getting more like what I wanted. So next I am going to be using just ground cinnamon, and I'm just going to sprinkle this all over everywhere that I painted. So I'm going to just get quite a bit and sprinkle it over everywhere I've painted. It'll smell beautiful, one thing, and this will give it an extra layer of that look you're looking for. And it will stick nicely because your paint is thick and it's wet. So there we are. Put more on than what you need, and then you can just knock it off. And then go in with a different brush and just pull it back. And this is just giving some areas a little bit of depth and letting the colours underneath pop through. It's just a dry brush, just knocking away a little bit of the paint, a little bit of the cinnamon, and this is what we have. If I can, with the light, show you what we've got going on. I'm going to let that dry completely, let it dry overnight, and then put a clear coat on top of this. Just the clear coat on just the parts I've painted, and then we'll get to the next part. I clear coated over the rust areas, and now I'm going to go back in and do white linen colour chalk paint over the whole thing. Probably 2 coats, maybe 3, but definitely 2. And after that we will be doing some wet distressing. So once I've covered this fully for 2 coats, I will then be back. I have 2 coats of white chalk paint on this, and now I am going to wet distress. Basically, wet distress means using an old cloth, nice rough one would be good, old face cloth, and having it damp with warm water. And then I'm going to just rub away at the areas that I have, especially the rust. And I want to try and show through the rust effect. So I'm just rubbing away the white in areas. It's going to take a little bit because I want to get back to that rust colour best I can. So it's mostly around the edges. So just getting the edges, and you really want to take your time rubbing over areas that have the rust effect. You can tell where the rust areas are because it's slightly lumpy from where you've sprinkled on the cinnamon, and also where you were putting heavily dabbing your different colours on, so it does have a different consistency, so you can tell where you need to be. I'm okay with some of the silver showing through as I do this, so I'm alright with that. So I'm just going to keep rubbing different areas, pulling through the rust and some of the edging. And as your cloth gets a little too white, just find spots that don't have the white on it. Keep getting new areas of your cloth and just rub away. working on just the edges. And just keep going around with your damp cloth, revealing the underneath and get rid of the white. And if you find your cloth's getting a little too white, then you need to then re-rinse it and get fresh water on, which is getting to the point where I need to be with this cloth. So I'm going to leave you at this point and just carry on wet distressing all the way around this piece. Alright, so next we're going to be using an aged glaze, and I'm going to be putting it on the white areas. Try not to cover over any of the rust areas, but also I don't want it too much in the middle. I'm just doing it around the edges on the white, but not in the middle. I've already done this side, and then I have a wet damp cloth, and I'm going to pull back the aged glaze, and you want it almost all the way pulled back because we want this to be white. We don't want this to look muddy and brown, we want it to look white. So I'm really going to pull back as much as I can without too distressing on the actual rust part. So really go at it with a damp cloth, make sure you've got lots of water, and really push back. As I say, we want it to be pretty much white. We just want that glaze to go into some of the details and around the edges. And then just wipe off again, just where you're doing the rust. Try and get some of the white off it. Have a look, step back, and I'm still gonna just keep going with the middle part here, pulling back the brown. I don't want it brown in the middle, I want it white. If you find you have too much of the brown in the middle, you can always go over with a whitewash afterwards. What I think I'm going to do is go over the middle with some white wax, just to pull it back just a little more. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up so I can show you. This is the way around I want it to be. Let's pull you up so you can see. So this is what we've got going on here. You can see all the detail. So I'm going to go ahead when this is fully dry, because it's a little bit wet right now with the glaze. I'm going to go over it with a clear coat, one last clear coat, and then I'm going to go over the center part, just a little bit of this center here, with some white wax. I may do some edges with some antique wax, we will see. The tile is now finished. It's hard to zoom in into the detail of the tile as the camera likes to zoom in on what's in front of it. So I'm just going to take my time just showing you the different corners of the tile. Just the rusticness that you can use this on the wall, hanging or on a shelf as a background to just age the area. And as I say, you wouldn't believe that this was originally a foil wedding cake stand. I'm finished, and I hope you enjoyed my video showing you how to do the different rustic looks with just some chalk paint of different colours and some cinnamon to sprinkle on, and just give that rustic aged look on anything kind of metal or anything that you want to add rust to. There's different stages you can go at. Have fun with it, explore it, enjoy it. I hope I inspired you. Give me the thumbs up if you're liking what I'm doing, and please subscribe. I have many videos to come. I'm having a great time, so join me, subscribe to Julie's Everything Treasures. Thanks for watching.